Hi there, and welcome back to another Insomnia Insight episode in which we are going to cover a topic that I get questions about all the time, which is sleep maintenance insomnia. In fact, we are going to break this video up into two parts. There's going to be a part A where we're going to understand sleep maintenance insomnia, and there are three points there that I think are going to be really helpful. And then B is how to meet sleep maintenance insomnia, and there are 3 points there as well. And by the way, the reason I haven't posted anything in the last few days is I've been on vacation, taking the kids and the wife to a spring break vacation. We went skiing in Utah. It was very nice, but I forgot to say that ahead of time. But anyway, that's where I've been. So before we get to the points, etc., just one quick definition thing. Let's make sure we talk about the same thing. So sleep disruption is when any number of non-emotional factors that create choppy sleep. So this is, for example, when you are snoring and you wake up because of that, or you have sleep apnea you wake up because of that, or somebody else is snoring, or there's some noise, or there's pain, or you have like hot flashes, or anything like that. That has nothing to do with your emotional state. Wakes you up, and that can cause you to wake up many times during the night. Versus insomnia, which is when the fear of not sleeping is what keeps us awake. And so I really want to emphasize this because there's a common confusion there. And I want to say that nothing here is medical advice, but generally speaking, it is not so hard to tell when there is sleep disruption from some non-emotional thing or insomnia. Because, for example, when somebody has sleep apnea, they may wake up many times throughout the night, like 8, 10, 15 times that they remember waking up. But it's typically like there's a wake up, and then there's a note, there's the person takes note that they are awake, but then falls back quickly again. There's no emotional reaction to waking up. So that's typical for sleep disruption versus insomnia. So I just want to say, anyone who thinks like, oh, I think I have, maybe there's some health problem I have, then of course talk to your doctor. That's always what I think is the first thing to do. But with that said, let's jump into sleep maintenance insomnia now and understand this in some more detail. So let's go to part A here, understanding sleep maintenance insomnia, and our 3 points. So point number one here is human beings wake up multiple times per hour. Yes, you heard me right. That is per hour. And if you do work as a sleep doctor, which I did in the past, or a sleep technician or something like that, you will see that when you do like EEG recordings of someone's sleep, there are actually many wake ups per hour. And the theory behind this, and I believe in this theory, is that when we are asleep, we are somewhat vulnerable, right? We are somewhat online, our eyes are closed, we don't see what's going on. So we need to we need to still be safe, right? So therefore, we are programmed to have these kind of brief awakenings, scan the surroundings, sort of like here, listen, maybe look around, and then if there's nothing threatening to us, then sleep is it resumes. By the way, my in-laws, they have a dachshund, and I've had the pleasure of observing the dachshund sleep, and it's very choppy, if you will, like it falls asleep, but as soon as there's a sound, it kind of wakes up, looks around, and then falls back asleep. And I think it's the same mechanism. So point here is that it's actually normal to wake up in itself many times per hour. That is totally normal, typical, and happens to everyone. But if you haven't had this struggle with sleep, or have this fear of not sleeping, then you don't even remember it. You do that like the dachshund. You wake up, scan the surroundings, nothing there, you fall back asleep. So my point here is that waking up in itself is a totally normal part of sleep. So sleep maintenance insomnia, this is point number two then. Sleep maintenance insomnia happens when we wake up, which is typical, and identify being awake as a threat, as something dangerous, as something that shouldn't be happening. This is this confusion in the safety center. We all have this kind of safety center in our brain that is supposed to notify us of something dangerous, and it can be confused. It can think that being awake in itself is dangerous. So sleep maintenance insomnia happens when we wake up, which is normal, typical, right? And then the brain goes like, oh no, we're awake. The danger is here. What are we going to do? And that fear then keeps us awake, and we remember that more prolonged awakening the following day. All right. So point number 3 here is that it is common for fear to migrate. And the reason I put this point in here is that a very, very common concern I hear voiced is I used to have sleep onset insomnia. I used to have trouble falling asleep. Now that's much better, maybe thanks to like listening to this channel. Now that's much better, but now I have sleep maintenance insomnia. And that's often a source of kind of confusion and fear and like, oh, what's going on now? Like, but my point here is that this is very, very common. It's very common when we have been afraid of not sleeping in the context of falling asleep. It's not at all uncommon for that to then manifest as fear of not sleeping when we wake up. And the opposite, it can also happen that somebody had this like sleep maintenance insomnia and that got better, but now they have sleep onset insomnia. So one going from one to the other is just not uncommon at all. Very, very typical, a very, very common story. And with that said, that kind of actually segues nicely to, so if that's the case, if we have sleep maintenance insomnia, that's what we've always had, or if it's gone from like sleep onset to sleep maintenance insomnia, or from one to the other, how should we meet this? All right, so let's head over to section number B. I was about to say, let's head over to section B here. How do we meet sleep maintenance insomnia? So number one, very brief here. It's just know the above. Everything we talked about that gives you an understanding that is just so, so helpful. Part of education. More specifically, number two here, understand that there's no principal difference when we compare sleep maintenance insomnia versus other manifestations of the fear of not sleeping, like sleep onset insomnia, when the fear of being awake keeps us from initially falling asleep at night, or unrefreshing sleep, just feeling like I never fully sleep. I'm always in the kind of superficial state and I never feel refreshed. That is another common manifestations of the fear of not sleeping, or having hypnic jerks, like being like jolted awake just as you're about to fall asleep, like that. All these are just different manifestations of the same fear, the fear of not sleeping. And some viewer here may say, this is kind of ironic, Daniel, like you're making a specific episode on something you call sleep maintenance insomnia, but then you say it's nothing really different from anything else. True, very true. But I think there's no other way to teach this, right? So that's what. But I still want to really, really point this out. I think it's so helpful, because when you think that, oh, this is something very unique, special, unusual, strange that is happening to me, that leads you to look for some exotic solution. But when you see that, oh, this is actually nothing strange at all, it's actually just, again, just another variety of being afraid of not sleeping, then things get much easier. And then number three, I think the answer really is befriending wakefulness. Basically teaching this confused safety center that being awake is not dangerous. It is not a threat. It's just a state. It's just a state that the brain can be in. And when we see that it's not dangerous, then everything just becomes more peaceful and sleep happens very easily. And how do we do that? Well, I have a whole video on that you'll find in the This Is Netto playlist, and you'll find that playlist in the description of any video. But very briefly, I will say that when you wake up in the night, I think it's very helpful to not know the time. Resist the urge to check the time it is. That's a little bit of relinquishing control, or the attempt to have control, and then do something you like to do. Maybe you read a book, or listen to a nice podcast, or watch some TV or Netflix or something like that. Just do something you like, and teach the brain that being awake is nothing we have to try to control or run away from or fear. And now the very, very common objection I get when I say that is that, well, Daniel, like if I wake up in the middle of the night and I do something like watch TV, isn't that just going to stimulate me and make me more awake? Isn't that going to make me more awake? And when I hear that, I always say, like, you're onto something really big here, because you've just verbalized the fear of being awake. That is the fear of being awake. When you think like, oh my gosh, that's going to wake me up. Well, there you have it. That is the fear of being awake, which is insomnia, right? And so there's even more reason then to befriend what you have feared and find peaceful sleep and peace of mind. That is it. That's a wrap. I hope this was helpful to you. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments on this episode, and I look forward to having you back really soon. And as always, if you find that you'd like a little bit more help support on your path to leaving the struggle with sleep, then of course head to our website, and there are plenty of, I think, really, really helpful options there. All right, that's it for now. Bye-bye. See you soon.